Hey everyone. So normally in class, I could see when we're struggling and be able to react immediately. But because that's not the case, today's lesson, the objective is just to clarify how to solve word problems with proportions, because I saw that we still had some difficulty with that. And so I don't want to move on just yet. I will be teaching another approach as well later this week, but I want to make sure we understand this approach first. So let's go on. Now, so let's think about the definition of proportion. Now, proportion means ratios are equal. Now, a ratio is a fraction. And so below, you'll see that I set up two fractions. A over B equals C over D. So two fractions are equal. Now, I've highlighted them in a special way on purpose. I've color-coded them, and we're going to be discussing them in the examples. So the way we're going to take a look at this is just to be all on the same page. Now, in the future, you can do it left side, right side. I'm just being a little more explicit because of this distance learning. On the left side, we're going to always put our percentages. Now, on our right side, we are going to put the values, the numbers of the topic. So whatever topic we are dealing with, whether it be money, days, weeks, that will be there as well. Now, what has to happen, and this is why I color coded as well, the percentage in A must match the value in C. And the percentage in B must match the value in D. And we're going to see what this is like. Now, before we move on, what we're also going to notice here is that we're actually also dealing with three unknowns, really. Because if we're thinking about our percentages, one thing that's always true if we're setting this up, the value of B, we've always used our 100%, our starting value. So we really either have to figure out what D is, A is, or C is. So today what we're going to do is we're going to have three examples and practice problems to go along with it. One that will look for solving A, one for C, one for D, because those are the three options that we're going to have. So let's go on and decide which one we're missing. So recently you went shopping and purchased 92 euros worth of new clothes. When checking out, you found that there was a 20% sale off. How much do you end up having to pay? Now, the way I approach the question is I always go straight to the question and I think to myself, which part is that missing? Now, as a reminder, I can immediately go here and I know that this is going to be 100%. So I think to myself, how much do you end up having to pay? Is that the value of A, C, or D? What do you think? Well, it ends up being C. We are missing the total, the part of the total. So we're going to say X represents how much you end up paying. And that's going to be up here. That's our C. It's our comparison to our start. Well, what's our start? Our start is 92. Now, we're trying to figure out, there's different ways of doing this. Now, we need to have the percentage that matches this, the percentage that matches what I'm paying. Well, if I have 20% off, that means I am paying 80%. So that is going to be up here, the 80. I can now cross multiply, get 100x equals an 80 times 92. Hopefully you have a calculator near you, which is 7,360. Divide by 100, divide by 100. X is 73.60. So this is what I pay. Now, you could have defined X differently. You could have defined X as money off. Then you would have set up the proportion, still X over 92. We still have a 100 in the denominator. But now I'm going to put 20 because this represents money off. This represents percent off. As I said in the beginning, you have the percent on the left, you have the value on the right, but they're both talking about the off. Okay, let's go to a practice problem. So this is going to be solving for C. So it's a similar question. So how do you think you'd start? Now, again, because I know I'm solving for C, I could think about how much will it cost if you turn in an old iPhone. So that means we have 15% off. There's different ways of doing this. Again, there's the two ways of doing this. I'm going to start with saying X represents price after percentage off. Well, that means after 15% off. So that is right here. The original price is $850. I have the 100. Well, what's the price off? Well, 100% minus the 15% off equals 85%. So there's 85. I can now cross multiply. I get 100x equals 850 times 85, which is 72,250. Divide by 100, divide by 100. X equals 722.50. So price after discount for iPhone. Again, I cannot stress the important. This and this must match. And this must match. This represents percent paying. This represents money paying. They both have the word paying. This represents total percentage. This represents total paying. Notice they both have the word total. It must match. All right. Example 2. You had a goal of raising $1,500 for a local charity. So far, you have raised $900. What percentage do you still need to raise? So everyone think for a second. Am I missing A, C, or D? Well, hopefully you thought to yourself, since we're missing the percentage, that means we're missing A. So we're going to say X represents percentage I still need. I hope you're already thinking to yourself that this must match the money I still need. See how the words match? It's just the percentage to the value. So let's go setting up. All of a sudden, I'm missing the percentage. I know that it's out of 100%. The money I still need. Well, I've raised 900. I want 1,500. That means I need 600 out of the 1,500. Cross multiply. I have 1,500x equals a 60,000. Divide by 1,500. And I get That's 60,000 divided by 1,500 is 40. So I need 40% more. Just like before, we just had an example. Let's now have a practice that's solving for a similar one. Make sure that when we are doing it, the percentage and the values match. So here's practice 2. Try it on your own. Notice how I labeled everything. So all of a sudden, when we think about the numerators for both, it's percent left, days left. And then when we think about the denominators, it's the total percentage and it's the total days. It's all matching. Let's now do cross multiplication and we get a 180x equals a 4,600. We're going to do 4,600 divided by 180. And let's round to the, we'll go the hundredths, 25.56% left of school. Okay, so we've solved for A, we've solved for C. We're now going to do an example and then a practice for D. Okay, compared to last year, you grew 8%. You are now 160 centimeters tall. How tall were you last year? So this is our question. This is our unknown. And we already know that it represents D. So we're going to say X represents height last year. Now let's make sure we understand why it's D. We're comparing to last year. We already know that in our proportion, we have our 100%, which represents our starting height. And since we're comparing to last year, and that's what we're missing, that's why that's our 100%. So that goes here. Well, we now know we are now 160 centimeters. So this is where we are. Oh, I'm going to make sure I color code this. This is where we are compared to original. We don't know the original. That's always our comparison to our original. Now we grew 8%. Well, growing 8% from 100% means we're at 108% because we grow 8. Let's do some cross multiplication and get 108x equals a 16,000. Then we will do 16,000 divided by 108. And we get x equals, we'll round to the hundredths again, 148.15 centimeters was your height last year. Okay, use this example to help with the next practice. Here's practice 3. So just like the past practice, I already wrote the proportion out and I've labeled everything so that we can see that all of a sudden, this is the population with growth. This is the percentage with growth. It's matching. And then all of a sudden we have the original percentage and we have the original population. So let's now do cross multiplication and get 103x is equal 95, 1, 2, 3, to 9.5 million, divide by 103, divide by 103, x equals. Now we have people, so I shouldn't need, ooh, that's not a 3, to tell you that we don't have decimals. Population of Austin last year. So I have two more practice problems for you. You have to decide, is A, C, or D missing? All right, here's practice problem 4. Give it a shot. So here's the answer to this question. We were missing A, the percentage. We see again that this represents the total percent, the total book pages. And my numerator was the percent read, and this represents the pages read. It's all matching up. It ends up being about 63% of the book. All right, last question. Give it a shot. So here's the final one. Again, I want to keep showing you matching. It's the percent in Lombardia. It's the people in Lombardia. Then we go into the denominator, and it's the total percentage, and it's the total population. So it's all matching up. So there ends up being about 10.37 million people who live in Lombardia. Now, hopefully this lesson cleared up some of your issues. If it does not, make sure that you are reaching out to me for extra support. On the third class of this week, we will be looking at an alternative approach to solving these style questions. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Bye.